One of you hit me up on Twitter, Ryan. He says, do you think Oregon will ever be a leader in recruiting in the upcoming years? So the way that I'm interpreting this is Ryan is saying, do you think Oregon can have a number 1 ranked recruiting class at some point in the future? I'll tell you about it in a second, but if you're watching this as a one-off video, we appreciate you for that. But this is part of a live show on the On3 YouTube channel called The Hard Count. We talk college football every single day, live Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss a minute of the college football content we got coming for you. Once you're a part of this, we appreciate you in advance for being a part of it, all right? Now, for Oregon, I think the obstacle for them to have a number 1 ranked class is what it's always been. The location of Eugene, Oregon is not necessarily in the backyard of some of the best talent in the country. It's not dunking on the state of Oregon. It's just a fact that there's really good talent and a lot of talent in the state of Texas, in the state of Georgia, Florida, California. I understand that's closer than those states, but that's still a plane flight away. So location has always been the obstacle for Oregon. But look at what they've done since Dan Lanning's been there. In 2023, number 7 class. In 2024, they just wrapped up a top 5 class, number 4 class in the country for Oregon. So they're cooking right now. They got momentum. What I want to say about Oregon, them having, Oregon having a number 1 ranked recruiting class is more of a conversation right now than it ever has been. The reason for that being, they have everything they need to succeed in the acquiring talent side of things in college football in the modern era. Everything they need. Very well resourced. That's been well documented. Everyone likes to make jokes about Uncle Phil and Nike. Say what you want. It's real. It's real. Oregon is a very well-resourced operation. I don't think that's a secret. Other part, they have real momentum. New Year's Six Bowl victory last season. They have a head coach who has made it extremely clear he is locked in. Grass is extremely green in Eugene, and he's not worried about going anywhere else. Alabama was an opening. Whether he was offered the job or not, he made it clear, I'm not going nowhere. Okay, so that does something when it comes to acquiring talent. I mean, it provides some security at the high school level, at least, to know who I commit to out of high school. I feel relative confidence he will still be there when I graduate or when I leave for the NFL, whichever happens first. You have a head coach and a staff. This is the most important part. They've got an SEC mentality when it comes to the recruiting side of things. And it's one thing to say we care about recruiting. Yeah, we want to get the best players, but look at this staff. Tosh Lapoy, Dan Lanning, they have an SEC background. From the Nick Saban tree, at least, is Dan Lanning. That's what he comes from. That's what he knows. That has been bred into him as a head coach in college football. He knows to win football games at the highest level, to compete at the highest level, we have to have the best players. You can have the great scheme. That's important. You got to have that. But to win how we want to win here at Oregon, we got to have the best talent. So what I'm trying to say here is it's a priority to Dan Lanning and company. It's a priority to this staff to recruit at the top level. Number 1 class, I would have to believe, whether they would tell you or not, I believe that's a goal for them in the future. I believe it, and I think, again, based on how they're built right now and where we are in modern college football, that's more attainable than ever before. Now, here's the great ace up the sleeve for Oregon. Here's why I think this is, again, more of a conversation now than maybe it would have been 5-10 years ago. The brand of Oregon has always been tremendous. Always been tremendous, but especially this era we're in right now with a lot of these kids that are either in college or about to enter into college. Oregon, for them, the snapshot in their mind is Oregon being a football school. It wasn't always that way. It is right now. These guys, they remember Marcus Mariota winning the Heisman, D'Anthony Thomas putting out an and one hoop mixtape, it felt like, every single Saturday, making dudes look silly, playing for Rose Bowls, playing for national championships, being in the college football playoff. You understand where we're coming from there. Oregon has been relevant in the college football world for the majority of these college football players or soon-to-be college football players' lives. That matters. So the brand has always been there. It's always been attractive with Nike and with the cool jerseys. It's always kind of had a swag to it, an aura to it. But on top of that, outside of these kids seeing Oregon, and for some of these kids aspiring to be at Oregon at some point in time based on what they saw on their television screen growing up, on top of that, there is no longer the stigma now of Pac-12 football for Oregon. Now, I will make sure I say this. I love the Pac-12. Rest in peace, Pac-12. I grew up in Pac-12 country. I grew up going and watching USC play UCLA. I grew up watching Oregon State and Oregon. Those were all big games in my household, all right? So I want to make sure we say that. But at the exact same time, if you're a recruit with an NFL mindset, and you say, I want to go play against the very best in the country, the Pac-12 really hasn't been the place to get that done. You think about the SEC, you think about the Big Ten. Well, Oregon not going to the Big Ten, I think that provides a little bit more confidence for these kids in the future that, okay, if I go to Oregon, I'm going to play against the best, I'm going to have a great filter to run my tape through for scouts, and I can accomplish all my goals and then some. You still got the geographical part of things that's an obstacle for Oregon, but with how they're built in the modern era and they're moving to the Big Ten, expanding their brand even further, I think that's a tremendous, tremendous asset for them when it comes to recruiting. So can they be the number one ranked class in the country in the future? I don't know, but it's definitely more possible now than it ever was previously. Also worth noting, the Nick Saban ripple effect, man. We felt it from the coaching carousel to the transfer portal. I'm not so sure we're not going to see that in the recruiting rankings here in the near future. Alabama, the number 2 class in 2024, but like, what happens when Kalen DeBoer has to recruit his own class? I'm just saying, I don't know if that means Alabama moves from the top 2, but I do think it provides a little bit more variance across the college football landscape and a few more recruits that maybe were saying, hey, I'm going to play for Nick Saban no matter what, and now they're going into their senior year or going into their junior year and saying, well, we'll see about Alabama. And just the only thought of we'll see just cracks that door open for some other schools like in Oregon to get in the mix and acquire some top talent. So I think it's very possible. I'm not calling my shot, I'm not predicting anything, but I do think with modern college football and with how Dan Lanning operates and runs his program, which obviously we have our own program here, I think it's very much so on the table for Oregon, more than it ever has been before. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.